Hello, it's Required Fields. I'm just on the steps drinking some Nitro Pepsi, and in today's video, I want to make a discussion about good songs from bad albums and some bad songs from some good albums. Because sometimes an album can be pretty bad, but it can still have a worthwhile song or two on it, even if the album as a whole is not good. And sometimes an album can be pretty good, but have a song that's actually quite bad on it. Either way, I'm just going to be discussing some examples of some good songs from bad albums and some bad songs from good albums. Okay, I'm going to start off with the good songs from some bad albums. Okay, in one of my Catalog Cripplers videos, I discussed the album Illud Divinum Insanus by Morbid Angel, and I did say in a review that I do think the song Nevermore is pretty good. It's not the best song they've ever done, but I do enjoy it, and that's just, I mentioned that in one of my videos, but yeah, that album, a lot of it makes me wonder what Morbid Angel were really thinking when they made it. Nevermore is the closest thing to have to a normal song from them, and I can understand them wanting to do something a little different, but it's just too bad it turned out to be like the final product eventually did overall. And but yeah, Nevermore is a pretty good song, even if it is from a bad album. Another example I can think of, Iron Maiden is one of the most iconic metal bands of all time, and in the 1980s they had a fantastic run. 1990 was one of the greatest years in metal history. Megadeth released their magnum opus with Rust in Peace. Slayer released Season to the Abyss. Creator released Cobalt of Souls. Death released the awesome Spirit album called Spiritual Healing. Let's see, Sacrifice released Soldiers of Misfortune. And you had Demolition Hammer released their debut album of Tortured Existence. The list goes on and on. Fantastic year for metal. Oh yeah, Judas Priest released Painkiller. That has to be mentioned. But Iron Maiden released their first actual misfire. They were coming off their second. They released No Prayer for the Dying in 1990, and that's their first album that be considered a real disappointment. 1988, Iron Maiden released their last album in the 80s. Called Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. That's my second favorite Iron Maiden album overall after Power Slave. But then No Prayer for the Dying was their first real disappointment. The album is the first in their catalog, you could say, is for the most diehard fans only. And it does, however, finish off on a good note with the song Mother Russia. Now, Mother Russia is the longest on the album, and of all the songs that are the longest on any Iron Maiden release, it's actually the shortest, being only 5.5 minutes. It's the only, No Prayer for the Dying is the only Iron Maiden album that has no song hit the 6-minute mark. But it is definitely a worthwhile song. It's too bad that the rest of the album couldn't have been as good as this one. And let's see, you have Saxon. In 1984, Saxon released Crusader. The album has a bit of an intro opening, and then the first full track from the album is the title track. And this song is simply epic. Fantastic song, and if you listen to the if we were listening to the album, you'd think that we'd be in for the best Saxon release ever, but then boom, downhill from there. The song is overall not really representative of the album, and we end up getting some really bad tracks on it, like Bad Boys Like to Rock and Roll and Rock City. Ugh, those songs are really bad. And anyways, yeah, it's too bad that Saxon, the rest of the album couldn't have been as good as Crusader was, because the rest of it goes in a much more commercial direction for the most part after that. It was a very much a disappointing album overall. I mean, I wasn't even born when the album first came out, don't get me wrong, but I imagine at the time it was seen as very disappointing by much of their fan base, because especially after that epic title track, it goes downhill big time. We also have Black Sabbath with their album Forbidden. Now, this is often pointed to in a pretty bad light, it seems, and I would say it's a 5 Tony Martin era album. It's definitely my least favorite, although I don't think it's terrible. It's more mediocre to okay-ish than outright terrible. Now, okay, the album is though some people so the band himself gives him a negative review of it, or at least I know one band member said it was recorded in 10 days and it showed. Tony Martin, the vocalist of the album, said in one interview that it was total crap, but in a later interview he did say he's since revisited it and he was a little harsh on it. And the thing is, though, I'd say like I said, the 5 albums that Black Sabbath did of Tony Martin, it's my least favorite. It said there was a recorded 10 days comment. I did not hear any of the band members indicate this, but I would not be the least bit surprised if it turned out that of the songs that were written for the album, if some of them might have been written during the recording sessions of past albums that didn't make the cut, they just decided to reuse them for this release. I don't know if that's the case or not, but if that was true, it would not surprise me. The album isn't terrible, but it does kind of feel like Tony Martin era Sabbath on autopilot for the most part. The album does, however, close off with a very good song, Kiss of Death. Now, this is probably one of the most underrated songs in the Black Sabbath catalog, if you ask me. Probably because it's not on one of their better albums by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe some people who didn't like the album just turned it off before it got to the end. Kiss of Death is the last track on it. Unless you own a Japanese version of the album, or there is a Japanese bonus track on it called Loser Gets It All. Yes, Kiss of Death is a very good song that finishes off Forbidden on a high note. Yes, even if you ignore the Forbidden album as a whole, at least be sure to check out the song Kiss of Death, because that is a good song. Anyways, another example that I can think of here would be Savatage and their Fight for the Rock album. I discussed this in one of my catalog cripplers. I didn't discuss Fight for Rock in the series, but I did mention it in an episode. I believe it was Crimson Glory, Strange and Beautiful. And I could discuss Fight for the Rock in the series, but I'm not going to, because Savatage followed up with the fantastic Call of the Mountain King album, which is overall their best album. Now, Fight for the Rock was definitely an attempt to go in a more commercial direction for Savatage, but they did actually close the album off. This is yet another example of a bad album, or the good track is at the very end, Red Light Paradise, which has a slight commercial tinge to it, but it works. The band themselves disown the album and it would not play anything from the album beyond the 1980s. Now, Out on the Streets was a song that was actually on Sirens first. Now, I really like the song Out on the Streets from Sirens, even though it was their first attempt at a more commercial song. They re-recorded it here. Now, maybe if I had heard the Fight for Rock version first, I could have a better opinion of it, but I liked it better on Sirens, maybe because I heard the Sirens version first. And most of the rest of the album is really, really bad, I think, for Fight for the Rock. But Red Light Paradise, which closes the album, is a bit of a darker song from it, even if it is a bit commercial, but it's pretty good. Show the album wasn't entirely worthless. So, yeah, that's a pretty good song from an album that is overall quite bad, Fight for the Rock from Savatage. But Red Light Paradise is a good song. And now we'll discuss a few bad songs from pretty good albums. Now, I'm going to discuss Dio here and his album Sacred Heart, which is a good album, even if it's a bit of a step down from the from Holy Diver and The Last in Line. Sacred Heart is also a slightly more commercial album than the two that came before, but it's still pretty good. The title track from it, hands down, has to be one of the best songs that Dio has ever sung on, ever. Whether it be with Dio, Rainbow, or Black Sabbath, it doesn't. Sacred Heart has to be one of his best songs he has ever sang. The album closes with a song called Shoot Shoot, which is really bad. It definitely just a very uninspired AC/DC throwaway track, just with Dio singing. Now, Dio could make almost any song worth listening to, I would say, even if even a song that didn't really do anything musically, he'd make it a pretty good song just with his vocals, but even he sounds pretty disinterested in this track. Now, there's a band called there's a band called TNT, who are best known for their late 80s stuff, which is more of a hair band type sound, but in the early 1980s, they did have a more traditional metal type sound. Their album Nights of the New Thunder is a pretty good album, and it borrows from some Maiden, some Judas Priest a bit. However, they did include a really sappy ballad toward the middle of the album called "I Felt Your Love." It's just a really wimpy, sappy love ballad that I'm going to assume was only put there just so they could sell more copies of the album, because ballads sell, and I understand that. Now, I do respect your opinion if you do like the song. I mean, I don't, but if you think it's a good song, that's fine. I will admit the song has a pretty good guitar solo. The musicianship on the album as a whole is great, and the guitarist, Ronnie Lennecro, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, shreds in a lot of the songs, and the guitar solo in this song is pretty good, but the song itself as a whole is a really sappy ballad that is not really for me at all. I mean, if those of you who like it, power to you, but I just can't say that this is something that's for me. Although Nights of the New Thunder is a good album, definitely check out some songs from that, such as Seven Seas, Ready to Leave, Deadly Metal, and Nights of the Thunder. Those are some good songs. And also, I mentioned Iron Maiden and the bad songs from good albums. Now we're going to go, good songs from bad albums. Now we're going to go to bad songs from good albums. And their album Peace of Mind is a good album, but there's one particular song that almost everyone points to as the worst song from that album, Quest for Fire. Particularly, you have the opening line of the song, and even this song, in this line of the song, I just can't really listen to it the rest of the way, really, and take it seriously. It is, I'll admit that the opening part of the song is pretty good. It started out pretty good, but when it gets to the main riff, it just goes downhill fast after that, and even Bruce Dickinson seems pretty disinterested in the song itself. So yeah, Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind is a good album, but Quest for Fire, yeesh, that song is bad. Really bad. And definitely the song that left a black mark on an otherwise very good album. But yes, Peace of Mind is still a good album overall. But yes, Quest for Fire is very bad. The song. But anyways, those are some examples of some good songs from bad albums and some bad songs from some good albums. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. If you enjoyed any of the songs that I had as being the bad songs from good albums, well, your opinion, and I respect that, and I also respect if you actually like some of the albums that I discussed in the good songs from bad albums. If you like those albums as a whole, nothing wrong with that. It's your opinion. Anyways, thank you very much for watching my videos. It's Required Field signing off, and goodbye.